was wrapped up in the stories, man. One of the things that I'm hearing, whether you tell the story of the two janitors, whether you tell your own personal story, one of the things that I'm taking from this is being open.
Yeah.
Right. Where the ideas are coming from. It doesn't matter what title somebody has or the letters behind their name. It can come from anywhere.
Yeah.
So in your space of trying to foster Black and brown business, where are the places that you're getting these people from? How can they be found?
Yeah, I think, brother, you said a real interesting thing, and I told Rob the theme song for me as I walk in here and listen to was The Art of Storytelling by Outkast. Shout out to Outkast. And I think that what I look for is just having conversations with people, because that phrase that talent is universal but opportunity is not, I really believe that. I really believe that talent just doesn't exist in Silicon Valley. For so long, they made it seem as if the only way you can have a startup is you have to go to the Bay Area, you have to be white, you have to be male, you have to drop out of school. I don't think that's the case. I think that ideas come from people, from their dreams, from their anger, from their aspirations. So I think for me, it's all about just meeting as many people as possible, having as many conversations as possible, because you may find that person who don't even believe in themselves, but you can provide more. So as a venture capitalist, and maybe Rob, I don't know if we should break this down, but like what I do as a VC is I manage other people's money to invest in startup businesses. And the idea for us is that we want to get what's called 10x. We want to get at least 10 times our money back. So where every dollar, I want 10. And so with that, you got to play the game of numbers. You got to spread that money out from many different opportunities, because 90% of your portfolio is going to fail. You already kind of know that, but you know that 1% of that is going to make up for all of that. Like, I'll give you a perfect example. We have a frat brother, Rashawn Williams. He pledged at Morehouse. He invested in Coinbase back in the day via Nas. I ain't even tell you how much money that brother made, but I'm just saying, like, one thing I love that he said is, for all those folks in crypto, he didn't bet on the currency, he bet on the casino. And I felt him on that, because Coinbase is the casino.
Right.
But bro, back to your question, I think that for us to find talent is you have to just always be looking. You have to always do things like this. That's what, for me, that's why I'm always like on podcasts. I'm always kind of putting my stuff out there. I jokingly call myself the DJ Khaled of clean tech, because it's like, for me, I'm a producer. The entrepreneurs, you're like an artist, right? You're like Kendrick Lamar. Kendrick Lamar is making content, but people are consuming. You're making content or services or product that people are consuming. But how do you make that? He makes it through, he gets financed through, venture capitalists, which are like labels. Like, we're like venture labels, right? We invest in the artists to create. And then how do you hear about the artists? Through Spotify and SoundCloud. But that's accelerators and incubators and co-working spaces, right? So those are the amplifiers of entrepreneurship. And that's how you find good folks.
So y'all like the connects.
Yeah. That's why I say. That's why I keep saying, like this history of the dope game. We can't deny it. If you got it in your blood, you need to come and get it out, because that's exactly what it is. I'd say people all the time is that I provide the 4 C's as an investor: capital, customers, connection, and culture. All 4 of those things are what you need to succeed when you're having a business.
I was thinking. So recently we had the problem with the pipeline that got cyber attacked, and it basically shut down the gas infrastructure, panic, So I started doing research, and the number 1 crime on the rise in the world, cybercrime. In the United States last year, it was over $4 billion. Okay. And I was thinking about how niggas are still robbing liquor stores with ski masks on. Your cousin Lenny, okay, is over there robbing Vons right now with wool on his forehead. And meanwhile, they shutting down entire pipelines with a computer. So you digital divide niggas, you on some sucker shit. I want to point something out that it may go past people. You hear us talk, you hear us build, and you hear this brother, okay? And you could tell he's got neighborhood in him. But let's not forget that he also has a PhD.
Yeah.
Okay? Mm-hmm. So it's great to have conversation, but my grandfather used to say, documentation beats conversation.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So
I'm still that.
You got to have them all.
Yeah.
Okay? What we're talking about and trying to present to you are men that are well-rounded and well-versed.
Yeah.
We look like you, we talk like you, but we also have the credentials.
Yeah, but let me add though, because what I don't want to get twisted is, you don't let this suit and the PhD fool you, right? Because here I'm gonna give you an example of this brother who dropped out of school at 8th grade, was a Crip, went to prison for stealing cars, went to prison for like 6 years, I think, and he get out of prison, was in his work release program, but just because he was a Crip and he stole cars didn't mean that he had an intellect. So he ended up getting 6 patents himself, has a company called Very Cool Packaging. They just raised $16 million, like one of the leading people in sustainable packaging. My whole point is that sometimes the documentation is not just the letters. The documentation can be the pathway to like that IP or anything else. And the thing about it is that these opportunities allow us, right? Like I'll give you a perfect example. I love using musical analogies. I mean, I used to be a rapper, so we're gonna have that. But back in the day, I look at this like back in the day when Boyz II Men got put on, right? They went to go song to Michael Bivins, and yeah, I like it, right? And he's it. Today, and T.I. said this, T.I. was like, if a nigga come rap to me, I'm like, man, get on. Show me your SoundCloud. Show me your YouTube. Show me all these things that you can build right now in addition to your music. So it's the same thing with founders. No longer am I gonna come to you and you're gonna give me a notepad and be like, yeah, I got this idea. Fuck that. Like, you're gonna come and show me your Clubhouse conversations, your Medium posts, all these other free things that are out there that have built up your opportunity to say, all right, I got the idea, I just need the capital for the execution.
See, let's throw the live. That's all you got to do, Rob. That's what I'm trying to teach him how to host, man. one of the interesting things that came to mind when you're saying, because I was thinking about different forms of equity.
Yeah.
And one of the forms of equity that we skip over, which I think is the most important to me, is sweat equity.
Oh yeah.
Putting in the work. And
Yeah.
that's what you just described.
Yeah.
That's part of what I mean. I was going where the documentation beats the conversation. Because I know
Absolutely.
plenty of people that say, and then when it's time to put up, they out.
Right.
Everybody want to get on the finish line.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's a whole race to be run. Okay, so how many folks do you run into with great conversation?
Yeah.
And it's mostly smoke.
Well, but I want to go back to your point, and I think it's very important because I meet a lot of people who said, man, I want to be an investor, I want to have the dough. And I think there are 2 pathways for that. You have things like Republic, which is called equity crowdfunding, where you can go as $25 to invest. And you can start there to kind of test your chops to see if you can spot a really great founder and great idea. But I think even some of our first investments were all sweat equity investments. It was like, yo, like I like your business. Even like the clothing company Boswell that I was a part of. I came to him and I said, you're doing custom clothing for athletes. I think there's a better way. And let me help you do that. Not only I'm going to tell you that, I'm going to help you implement it. And I think that's the type of sweat equity that I look at it. I look to, not just let me give you an idea and let me step back. Let me give you an idea and let me actually help you execute it. Because as investors, again, like most founders now, they're like, I don't want just money. I don't want just you to open up a wallet. I want you to open up your connections and your experience and your wherewithal for it, right? So I think that at this time, it's like this is, and that's the experience of failing. Because if you failed at something, you know what to tell a person to avoid, right? It's just like marriage, right?
Yeah.
And Rob and I talked about this when my wife and I first got married. I think this is 22 years, I can't remember, 99 when I got married. But the first thing we did was we went to marriage counseling, not because we needed it, because what we said was we want to make sure we ain't talking about the shit they talking about. Like everything they arguing about, we want to make sure we nip that in the bud right now. And we did that our first 5 years of marriage. Yeah, because we were just like, yo, like we ain't trying to have these issues that people have. Like we got too much money to make, And so I look at that as the same way from a founder standpoint. Know what the greatest people to have are the people who have failed but are willing to get back up again. You know, and I think for me, that's part of the documentation is going through the motions, figuring it out. And the reason I want to put that out there is because I think that there's a lot of smart people who have failed, who you think you see now in business, you're like, oh, they're great, you know, they're wonderful, but we're not looking at the failures that they've made. And I think for ourselves, even as people of color, we need to recognize that, you know, and realize what we can do.
Man, you didn't know black dudes didn't get married? That's what I keep hearing all the time. We don't get married. We're not in a relationship. Hey, I'm the only one on the panel that's not married.
But you were.
That's true.
Okay.
What? That's, well, you know.
That's my whole point about knowing the failure. Because the next time you go down there, you're going to be like, I know what not to do.
I know a hell of an Easter speech on that.
And you got 22 years, 24 years. So, you know, we trying to do some things. Hey, man, you know, one thing that we had the conversation after the Mac Mittens episode that this man cracked up halfway through all the phone calls and the text messages. And one thing that you said to me that stuck with me is like, hey man, we need a Mac Mittens for your finances, for your investments. Yeah. You know, so how would you be that for us? What's your vision for that?
Yeah, most definitely. Here's my thought on it. When I, like I mentioned, when I first got into the space, I didn't hear anything about it, but there were already people who looked like us in it. My question is, why didn't it spread the knowledge? You know what I'm saying? Like the thing about it is that, you know, the way I look at it is like the reason I do this, the reason I do everything, and I talk to people. Anytime somebody talks to me, I'm always talking about it. Hell, I put out an album talking about, you know, investing, is because we have the talent. We may not have the vocabulary for it. And this business in investing is about having the vocabulary as well. Because if I'm asking you for X, Y, Z, and you don't know what I'm talking about, but you have it, you may not make it happen, right? You might not get an investment. So the idea is about understanding the lingo or the ecosystem. When I was at the University of California, Riverside, that was our whole tenet. Our whole idea was to educate everyone, no matter who they look like, no matter what they look like. I didn't give a shit if they were like on the street. We wanted them to understand and know, and we put out like pamphlets and flyers and everything else, right? So I think that for us, it's about access to the information. And I think for so long, you had some people who got in these positions and they were like, I'm the only one here, you know, so I need to make sure I get straight because I'm afraid I'm gonna get taken off. I think for me, and this happened recently, Rob knows this, and I'm very transparent about my health as well. When I became very sick, my thing was like, well, shit, like I don't give a shit no more. Like no one can do anything to me that has not already been done. Yeah. So I'm not afraid about getting information. I'm not afraid about getting other people in. So my whole thing is like, I was talking to Chuck D once and we were like, you know, the idea for me is to open up the door so 100 more people can come in and exceed me. I think that's the type of thinking we need to have right now. It's like, it's not about me, it's about we, you know?
So see, you the dude we would have to call in, right? And we were like, listen, we need Taj in the room to like translate and tell us like, hey.
Yeah, but see, not only that, what Taj is gonna do is gonna be like, let me bring in 4 other people.
Right.
Who could do that as well.
Right.
To make it like we talk about this, it's like we talk about cancer. And cancer, what really cancer is the idea that takes over another cell, right? And then it spreads. But we always talk about it from a negative standpoint. We never talk about that from a positive standpoint. So we need to have this cancerous bit of information that comes into the space and it grows. And so for me, like a lot of times that I'll do, like I'm always trying to make sure that somebody else gets highlighted. Because there are other people out there that can do this stuff. There are other people out here who get the knowledge. But I think what happens is media allows one magical Negro at a time. And we allow that because we just like, we don't see it. I'll give you a perfect example. There was a young lady named Arlen Hamilton who has a fund called Backstage. Backstage was killing it. And Arlen has a story. Again, story is such a good part of what we do. She was formerly homeless. She was in the music industry. She didn't go to college, high school graduate, barely graduated from Dallas. And she ended up launching a fund that was like, if you Google her now, Backstage Capital, it's like one of the most popular Black-owned funds, right? She ended up saying that she wanted to raise $35 million for sisters, and the media was like, oh, hold on. You know? And then there was these other brothers coming up called Harlem Capital. of course in Harlem, doing real well. Shout out to the cats in Harlem. And then the media now, like, they're the darling, right? And so what was happening was the media was dictating, and they've been doing it for a long time, who our leaders are, who are speaking for us, so to speak. And so for me, it's like, let's change this. So every time somebody's talking about me, I'm going to mention all these other folks coming up, because we can't allow them to control the narrative. And the fear is that, well, if I don't, the media is not going to talk about me no more, my business is going to fail. No, man, we don't have to go that route.
It seems to me we have too many gatekeepers and not enough gate openers.
Oh, absolutely. That's the word. Absolutely. And I think if we think more like that, if somebody need to put that on a shirt though. If we think that, I think that we'll be much better off. Much better off.
Because I had a question. So, because a lot of folk who I know who wants to get into entrepreneurship, they want to start a business, they want to do this, and man, I'm always doing some text intros with you.
Yeah.
So the question is, where are the rooms and the groups of other back mittens like you that we could tap into?
Yeah. So man, good question. So and they're out there, and I think this is the other thing too, is like they exist, but they exist in the vacuum, right? They exist for the people who are in the know. And I think that venture capital itself is about being in the know, because there are some deals that no matter how much money you got, you might not get that deal because you don't have any relationship. What I think of it is like, I'm a former banker, right? And so I'm like, a lot of people, and I think I kind of got this from you, brother, is we don't make a lot of deposits in relationships before we take withdrawals. You make deposits in relationship. That's the whole give thing, right? Give first. And I think to that point, the organizations, to your point, Rob, are like Valence.community. That's an organization that was started by a black man named Kobe Fuller, based in Los Angeles. Anoop actually runs it, Guy Primus. And the whole idea there is to get more black folks, number one, connected and talking, that are in different industries, but also get more of us on corporate boards, which is another area we need to have. From specifically in venture capital, for those who are listening, there's something called Black VC that is for people who are already existing venture capitalists like myself, or people who want to go down that pathway. And then there's another that I founded called Green Tech Noir that's in the clean tech space, which is where we all need to get into. When Biden mentions infrastructure, what people need to understand is he's also talking about clean tech, where we need to run it. Let's look at weed. We've been selling weed for years. Now that this shit is legal and I go to startups, I don't see people who look like us there. And we need to change that. Right? And I'll be honest, we ain't gonna change it, keep talking about it. I don't never want to hear it. We know the stats. What we need to do is get in those doors. And we need to get those cats that are selling, that's moving big bales right now and put some tech to it,
For sure. Oh, matter of fact, I'm glad you said the board thing. I just completed my Abley training to be on my board training with Abley. That's kind of African American Black Leadership Institute.
Shout out to, I forgot the young lady that runs it there. She's a Pepperdine grad. But yeah, Abley is a good one. There are several others out there. Board. I went through one called Boardroom Bound that prepares you for board leadership.